You have 60 seconds. That's it. 60 seconds when you first meet someone to establish whether you're dominant or subordinate, whether you're someone to respect or someone to dismiss, whether you command attention or fade into background. And most people waste those 60 seconds being nice, being modest, being forgettable. Then they spend months or years trying to undo the weak first impression they created. The brutal reality: first impressions are final impressions. People decide within seconds whether you're high value or low value, dominant or submissive, worth their time or disposable. And they rarely revise these assessments, no matter how much contrary evidence you provide later. You can be competent, intelligent, valuable, but if your first 60 seconds communicated weakness, you'll fight uphill against that initial perception forever. Stop thinking first impressions are about being likable. They're about establishing dominance, about communicating through every aspect of your presence that you're not someone to dismiss, disrespect, or ignore. That engaging with you requires them to rise to your level, not you descending to theirs. That you're operating from a position of power, not seeking validation. Right now, you're probably making terrible first impressions. You're approaching people with energy that seeks approval. Your body language signals uncertainty. Your presence communicates that you're hoping they'll accept you. Your communication style asks permission to exist. And people read all of this instantly and categorize you as low status, weak, forgettable. This isn't about being mean or aggressive. It's about understanding that humans are primates who instinctively assess dominance hierarchies within seconds of meeting. Your body language, presence, energy, and initial communication either establish you as dominant or subordinate. There's no neutral. You're either above them or below them in the hierarchy that forms instantly in both your minds. Machiavelli understood that princes who approached situations seeking approval were immediately categorized as weak, while princes who approached from a position of assumed authority were granted that authority. That power was taken through presence before it was confirmed through action. That the first moments of any interaction established the frame for all future interactions. This video reveals the complete protocol, 6 specific principles of body language, presence, energy, and communication that create dominant, unforgettable first impressions in 60 seconds. Not theory. Protocol. Exact practices that establish you as high status from first contact. Now, drop this affirmation in the comments. I command absolute presence. Machiavelli's principle of immediate dominance. Machiavelli observed that power was established in first moments through presence, not gradually earned through competence. Those who entered rooms like they already owned them were treated as if they did. Those who entered seeking permission to be there never gained authority no matter their later accomplishments. First impressions establish hierarchy. Everything after just confirms or fails to overcome that initial assessment. 1. The entrance frame. Own space before speaking. Here's your first protocol element. When you enter any space, room, conversation, social gathering, pause for 2 seconds before moving or speaking. Stand still. Scan the environment. Make eye contact with multiple people. This pause communicates that you're assessing the situation, not anxiously seeking approval. That you enter spaces from a position of evaluating them, not hoping they'll accept you. Most people enter spaces with energy that seeks permission. They look around anxiously for where they should go, who they should approach, whether they're welcome. They move quickly to minimize their intrusion. They speak immediately to fill uncomfortable silence. All of this screams low status and subordinate positioning. The entrance pause does the opposite. You enter, you stop, you take your time assessing. You make others wait while you decide how you'll engage. This 2-second stillness establishes dominance because dominant people don't rush. They don't seek approval. They assess situations from position of power. Watch high-status people enter rooms. They don't scurry to corners or immediately seek familiar faces. They pause. They survey. They let the room notice them before they engage with the room. This pause establishes frame. They're choosing how to engage, not reactively responding to the space. The ruthless practice. Next time you enter any space, execute the entrance pause. Walk in with measured pace, not rushed, not slow, just deliberate. Stop just inside the entrance. Scan the room for 2 full seconds while standing completely still. Make eye contact with at least 3 people during your scan. Then move with purpose toward wherever you're going. No anxious rushing. No approval-seeking energy. This establishes you as someone who enters spaces from position of confidence. People notice the pause. It's unusual because most people enter with subordinate energy. That notice is the point. You've established dominance before speaking a word. Drop this affirmation. I own every space I enter. 2. The physical stillness. Eliminate nervous movement. Pay attention to this power principle. Absolute physical stillness. When you're not moving with purpose, you're completely still. No fidgeting, no weight shifting. No self-soothing touches to face or hair. No unnecessary adjustments. Complete stillness that communicates you're comfortable, controlled and dominant in your own body. Nervous movement is status signal. When you fidget, touch your face, shift your weight, adjust your clothes, you're broadcasting anxiety. Anxiety signals you're uncomfortable, which signals you're in unfamiliar or threatening environment, which signals you're not dominant in this situation. People read this instantly as low status. Dominant stillness communicates the opposite. When you stand or sit completely still, except for intentional movements, you signal comfort and control. That you're not anxious because you're not threatened. That you're operating from position of power, where nothing in this environment challenges you enough to create nervous energy. Watch people in conversations. Low-status people fidget constantly. Touching faces, shifting weight, making small adjustments. High-status people are remarkably still. They move only when making deliberate gestures or shifting position with purpose. This stillness differential is primal status communication. The ruthless practice: eliminate all unconscious movement. When standing, plant yourself and remain completely still, except when making intentional gestures or deliberately shifting. When sitting, settle into position and hold it without fidgeting. Hands either at sides, clasped in front, or resting on surfaces, completely still. Face and head completely still, except when speaking or deliberately looking at something. This requires conscious control, because humans naturally fidget when anxious. But that's exactly why stillness communicates dominance. It shows you're not anxious because you're not in subordinate position. Your stillness establishes power before you speak. Drop this affirmation. I refuse to be psychologically dominated. 3. The eye contact protocol. Sustained dominance. Gaze. Here's ruthless eye contact protocol. When making first contact, hold eye contact for 1 full second longer than feels comfortable. Most people break eye contact when it starts feeling intense because prolonged eye contact triggers primal dominance negotiation. Breaking contact first signals submission. Holding contact signals dominance. Eye contact is literal dominance test. In primate hierarchies, sustained eye contact is challenge or dominance display. Subordinate primates avert gaze when dominant ones look at them. This same instinct operates in humans. Breaking eye contact first is instinctive submission to the person who held it longer. When you hold eye contact past comfort point, you're communicating, "I'm not threatened by this intensity. I'm comfortable in direct confrontation with you. I'm operating from dominant position." Most people will break first because they're unconsciously submitting to this primal test. The key is holding it exactly 1 second past mutual comfort. Not so long it becomes aggressive staring that provokes conflict. Just long enough that they feel the intensity, get slightly uncomfortable, and instinctively break contact first. That break is them submitting to your dominance in that micro-interaction. The ruthless practice. During first 60 seconds of any interaction, establish eye contact and hold it firmly without breaking until they break first. Don't stare aggressively. Maintain calm, neutral expression while holding contact. When they break contact first, most will, you've established dominance. If they hold past your comfort, hold 1 second longer anyway. This is dominance test you can't afford to fail in first impression. After this initial dominance establishment, you can use normal eye contact patterns. But that first sustained gaze establishes hierarchy that frames everything after. You've communicated non-verbally that you're dominant in this interaction. Drop this affirmation. I control my focus. 4. The vocal dominance, speak last and speak slowly. Pay attention to this communication protocol. In first 60 seconds, let others speak first. When you do speak, speak significantly slower than conversational pace. This combination communicates you're not anxious to fill silence, dominance, and you expect people to wait for your words. Authority. Speaking first signals anxiety about silence. It shows you're uncomfortable with pause and need to fill it for your own comfort. This is subordinate energy, needing to manage the interaction to relieve your discomfort. Speaking last shows you're comfortable with silence, which signals dominance. Speaking slowly forces others to adjust to your pace. Fast speech signals anxiety and desire to get through your message quickly before you lose their attention. Slow speech signals you expect attention, that people will wait for your words because your words are worth waiting for. Speed versus slowness is direct status communication. Watch status dynamics in conversations. Low-status people speak quickly and jump in to fill silences. High-status people speak slowly and let silences exist until they choose to fill them. The person who controls conversational pace controls the interaction. The ruthless practice. During first 60 seconds, resist urge to speak first. Let silence exist for 2 to 3 seconds, if necessary, until others speak. When you do speak, deliberately slow your pace to about 70% of conversational speed. Pause between sentences. Let your words land before continuing. Make people wait for your communication. This establishes that you speak when ready, not when pressured, and that your words deserve patient attention. This combination, speaking last and speaking slowly, establishes conversational dominance. You've communicated that you're comfortable with silence and that your communication happens at your pace, not anxiously adjusted to others' rhythm. Drop this affirmation. I choose awareness over virtue. 5. The space occupation. Physical territory dominance. Here's power move. Occupy more physical space than necessary. Stand with feet shoulder width apart, not together. When sitting, spread slightly. Arms on armrests, legs in comfortable wide stance. Use deliberate gestures that extend into surrounding space. This physical expansion communicates dominance because space occupation is literal territory control. In primate hierarchies, dominant individuals occupy more space. They sprawl, extend, take up room. Subordinate individuals make themselves smaller. Feet together, arms close to body, minimal space occupation. Humans unconsciously read these same signals. More space, you higher status. Less space, lower status. When you physically expand into available space, you're communicating that you're entitled to territory, that you're not minimizing yourself to accommodate others, that you operate from position where space is yours to occupy, not something you need permission to use. This reads as dominance. The balance is expansion without aggression, not invading others' personal space, but occupying your own space fully instead of minimizing yourself. Standing with confident wide stance instead of feet together. Sitting with comfortable spread instead of compressed positioning. Using gestures that extend outward instead of keeping everything close to body. The ruthless practice. During first 60 seconds, consciously expand your physical presence. Stand with feet shoulder width apart. Weight evenly distributed. If sitting, spread comfortably into available space. Don't minimize yourself. When making gestures, extend them outward with full arm movements instead of small, close-to-body movements. Occupy space like you own it, because in those 60 seconds, establishing that ownership is exactly what you're doing. This physical expansion establishes spatial dominance. You've communicated non-verbally that you're entitled to space and comfortable occupying it fully. This reads instantly as high status. Drop this affirmation. I am untouchable in thought. 6. The confident assertion. Make statement, not question. Here's final protocol element. Your first words should be statement, not question. Don't ask, how are you? Or nice to meet you. Make statements. Good to connect with you. I've heard interesting things about your work. Statements establish frame. Questions seek validation. First words as statements establish dominance. First words as questions establish subordination. Questions put the other person in control. They decide how to answer. They control the conversational direction. Statements establish your frame. You've decided what's being communicated. The person who frames interaction controls it. Questions give away control. Statements claim it. This doesn't mean being rude or refusing to engage. It means structuring your opening communication as assertions that establish your frame, rather than questions that give them control. I'm interested in your perspective on X is more powerful than can you tell me about X? Both request information, but one does so from position of framing the conversation. Watch powerful people's first words in interactions. They rarely ask questions immediately. They make statements that establish context, frame the interaction, or assert their perspective. Questions come later, once they've established the conversational frame through initial statements. The ruthless practice. Prepare opening statements instead of opening questions. When meeting someone, instead of "How are you?" use "Good to finally meet you." Instead of "What do you do?" use "I've been curious about your work in field." Deal. Structure first communication as statements that establish your frame for the interaction. Questions can come after you've established dominance through assertive opening. This final element completes the 60-second protocol. You've established dominance through entrance frame, stillness, eye contact, vocal control, space occupation, and assertive opening. The impression is formed. You're high status, dominant, unforgettable. Drop this affirmation. I command absolute presence. Dominate first impressions through protocol. So here's what this 6-element protocol reveals. First impressions establish hierarchy permanently. Enter spaces with assessment pause, not approval-seeking energy. Eliminate nervous movement through dominant stillness. Win eye contact dominance tests. Speak last and speak slowly. Occupy space fully. Make statements, not questions. Execute this protocol in first 60 seconds, and you establish dominance that frames every future interaction. People categorize you as high status, powerful, memorable. That categorization is almost impossible to reverse, which is why getting first impressions right is critical. Stop approaching first meetings trying to be liked. Start approaching them to establish dominance. Likeable but weak is forgettable. Dominant and memorable is powerful. You can add likeable after you've established power. But establishing power after people have categorized you as weak is nearly impossible. Machiavelli would remind you that power taken through presence precedes power earned through competence. That those who entered situations from position of assumed authority were granted authority. That first moments established hierarchy that subsequent actions merely confirmed or failed to overcome. If this video gave you the complete first impression dominance protocol, hit that like button. Share it with someone making weak first impressions. Subscribe because we're teaching dominance through systematic practice, not theory. Now drop this final affirmation. I own every space I enter. Master the protocol. Execute it ruthlessly. Dominate first impressions. Now go create first impressions so powerful they establish your dominance permanently.